Single mother receives her eviction notice after months of struggling to pay her rent. A child in a third world country walks 2 miles carrying a single bucket of water for his family to share for the day. A middle class father is injured in a working accident, leaving him unable to provide for his family. Before long, the family is drowning in medical bills, unable to keep their lights on. In some form or another, poverty rears its ugly head in every country of the world. I have my sister behind the camera today, and today we will be discussing solutions to poverty on a global basis. To fight the powerful grip of poverty in so many countries, we must first define it. What constitutes poor? People and families are considered poor when they lack the economic resources necessary to experience a minimal living standard as of 2020. In 2021, an estimated 698 million people, or 9% of the total global population, are living in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day, Suckling 2021. But why should we be concerned? For many of us, this doesn't strike very close to home. First reason is because God commands us to be compassionate and caring. When God says, love your neighbor as yourself, this absolutely applies to those around us who are financially challenged or living in poverty. Secondly, poverty hurts the economy around us, and it will eventually reach us. As the chain of supply and demand lowers in value, eventually, those in higher positions will still find their jobs taken away. So what causes poverty? 3 main causes for poverty can be found. One of the main ones is inequality. When women and girls are marginalized and physically and mentally challenged people are not allowed to work, a large amount of a country's talent base goes down the drain. When healthcare is the second main pillar of why in many countries poverty is so prevalent. Healthcare and nutrition for impoverished individuals and families is either incapable, unavailable, or too expensive. And finally, each new generation brings no change to this vicious cycle, unless measures are taken to set the youth on a new track. How can we fix all these? We need to mobilize underprivileged populations, increase healthcare availability, and break the cycle of youth in poverty. To mobilize underprivileged populations, this will include empowering women and girls, creating more quality job opportunities in minority communities, and hiring people with physical and mental challenges for suitable jobs wherever possible. To empower women and girls, this particularly includes cracking down on abuse or harassment in the workplace, particularly in higher up positions. Provide education for women that would enable them to be primary breadwinners should the need arise. In many third world countries, education for women and girls is extremely marginalized, leaving them without a rudimentary understanding of reading, writing, or arithmetic, leaving in turn many doors closed for them. Finally, reduce discrimination during the hiring process. In many third world countries, men are exclusively hired as opposed to women. This needs to go. Why is this so important? Because women account for 1/2 of a country's potential talent base. A nation's competitiveness in the long term depends significantly on whether and how it educates and utilizes its women. In order to maximize competitiveness and development potential, each country should strive for gender equality. That is, should give women the same rights, responsibilities, and opportunities as men. It's from the World Economic Forum 2011. Secondly, create job opportunities for minorities and disabled people. Prioritize training physically and mentally challenged people for jobs that they're capable of. Address company culture and policies to make them feel welcomed and included in the workplace. And be more intentional with diversity during the hiring process wherever possible and practical. Secondly, the second pillar is increasing healthcare availability. One of the most foundational types of healthcare that it can be provided, particularly in a third world country, is clean water. Many organizations are working to drill wells to bring clean water to many countries that have dirty water or no water at all. These include African countries with a desert climate. Basic health care for mother and baby protects the life cycle when it's most vulnerable, as well as ensuring that many more children reach adulthood And emergency services can often save the breadwinner of the family from accident or injury, keeping the family out of lasting poverty, expenses, and medical bills. Finally, breaking the cycle of youth in poverty is possibly the most important step. No matter what we do with one generation, unless it carries over into the next, there will be no long-term impact on global poverty. One simple way we can do this is by providing nutritious, reliable food. Many students, a second way is giving access to basic and higher education, and finally, reaching children in conflict in difficult places. One way that we can help provide nutritious food is by free school meals and reasonable grocery prices. Janet Poppendieck did a study in 2021. Students in schools with healthy meals for all fared better on tests than their peers in schools without universal meals in a carefully controlled study by the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. Janet Poppendieck, 2021. In other words, those who come to school hungry are very often less apt to do well and learn to their full potential as if they were properly and healthfully fed. But school is not only for feeding. It's also access to education, which can be one of the biggest open doors for a student to help leave poverty. Free public schools and transportation, equal educational opportunities for girls, and scholarships are all very essential. Financially challenged students showing promise are enabled by philanthropists and many kind people to get a degree by way of scholarships. Arguably, education is the most impactful opportunity a child in poverty can receive, allowing them to grow up, get a better paying job, and have the resources to take care of their family and the next generation. But for some children, education is the last thing on their mind. For those living in families in conflict, whether abuse or violence, communities in conflict, sometimes guerrilla warfare in third world countries, or a nation in conflict. These include refugee children. Many organizations are at work to pull children from these dangerous locations and to plant them where they can be protected and educated. But not all of us will have the opportunity to go overseas, drill wells, or start organizations to remove children from dangerous locations. So what can we all do? One of the first most important things we can do is pray. God has control over this situation even though we don't, and He has the opportunity to touch anyone's heart that He chooses to. He's asked us to come to Him and pray. Secondly, supporting organizations that should be helping is a great way to be able to donate financial resources to those who are less fortunate. And finally, making wise voting choices is also extremely important for those of us who have that opportunity in the country where we live. So to summarize, mobilizing the underprivileged population increases the labor force, the number of breadwinners, and therefore the economy overall. Increasing the affordability and availability of healthcare takes some of the most hefty and essential expenses off the average family, as well as keeping more laborers in working shape and helping more mothers and children survive. Breaking the cycle of youth in poverty ensures that the next generation will have resources and opportunities to honor the Lord by building wealth and caring for their families with integrity. To sum it up in the words of Ghanaian diplomat Kofi Annan, let us work in partnerships between rich and poor to improve the opportunities of all human beings to build better lives.